All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Deep End. This is big number 25. So happy to be back with you guys for another episode. Ari, my man, how you doing over there, Mr. Gutman?
Another week, another deep end episode. I can't believe it's already 25 episodes in. It literally feels like just yesterday where we started this whole ordeal, this whole deep end project.
Yeah.
But it's good that time is flying, that episodes are passing by because it means what we're doing is not only fun, but hopefully engaging for the entire community, which, by the way, thanks to Blossom, this whole deep end community is powered up by Blossom. So if any of you aren't on Blossom, you know exactly where to go right now or right after the deep end chat. Head over to Blossom to check out Ryan's portfolio and mine, full transparency. But talking about portfolios, I got some updates with mine, but I first want to hear
Uh-oh.
any updates you got with yours.
Well, dude, nothing crazy over here. All I'll say is we're hovering. And that's kind of been the general theme. I feel like these last I don't know, probably these last couple of months now, just hovering, man. 97K, 98K, we'll get up to 99, 99.1. Then we'll be back down to like upper 96. So we're hovering. And that's where we're at. But nothing crazy to report. I guess in a sense no news is good news, kind of. It could be bad news because we haven't hit 100K yet, but yeah, otherwise we're doing good. No complaints over here. What's happening in your portfolio? So last week you were at 278, if I remember correctly. But there's been some development, huh?
So, okay, first of all, today is a great day. I mean, the market seems to be, based on everything geopolitically, kind of dying down a little bit. Don't want to speak too soon.
Yeah.
But my portfolio officially, as of today, just hit a new high, which was 281,530. So, I
Nice.
mean, little by little. Now, I want to share a couple of things. And Ryan, I actually texted you about this the moment the news hit me. And that was when I got a nice call from my accountant, and her and her team were like, Mr. Gutman, it looks like this year you're going to owe a little over, 10K. It could come out to around 12K. But I got to say, it really hit me. It hit me so deep because it's like the last thing I want to do is I want to pay taxes. I don't mind paying taxes. But the last thing I want to do right now when I'm trying to hit $300,000 is send good old Uncle Sam a nice check for 12K, which I don't know quite yet if that's stunted my plans and my kind of target goal to hit 300K in about a month and a half. But trying not to let that stop me. I'm going to try to move some money around and see what I can do so I can make sure I do hit my goal. And if we do get a big run up, that will just be helpful, which I think we actually could see that because everything seems to be heading in a smoother direction right now. Now, I had added Visa to my portfolio. Did I say that last week? Yeah, I
Yeah,
bought
yeah,
Visa on the
you had
dip.
you jumped back in on the dip, right?
So I was planning to get rid of this thing by now, and it's still in the portfolio. And I know people from the last deep end chat said, "Don't sell, don't sell. Why would you sell Visa?" But you got to understand, like, I was making a swing trade. Not only that, Visa's a great stock. It's a stock that if you do swing in on and swing out of, you don't really have to worry about this thing tanking ever. You just have to wait it out. And so what I saw today was that Waste Management actually fell to, it fell back below, what was it, 230, I think? It's below there. Correct me
Hmm.
if I'm wrong. Too many numbers going through my head right now. Regardless, Waste Management fell. And I would have liked to have had the money from Visa to actually have invested into Waste Management because Waste Management is going to be a keeper for the long haul. But it's all right. I'm holding on to Visa for now in the portfolio. And it looks like as of the other day, the Visa exec team came out and they said, stable coin? We're not worried about stable coins. We've been preparing for that. Matter of fact, we embrace it. And that gave a nice jolt of energy to Visa shareholders, myself included. But it wasn't enough to bring us back over the, I think it was a 353 or whatever it was I bought in at.
Hmm.
No, that number might be off too. Am I off?
I think it was in the 340s. I think Visa's now back up into the
Yeah,
350s
yeah.
if I'm
It's
remembering
Visa.
that correctly.
Yeah, so I bought in around 352,
Oh, okay.
353. Um, dipped down and then it came back up. You're right. It's hovering around 350 now. So, I'm waiting to get rid of Visa again to get this out of my portfolio, but I'm not going to sell it at 353. I'm not breaking even.
Right. What
And
price are you hoping to sell it at?
well, I wanted to get it back at the peak. So I think it was in the 360s, like 364 or 363. It was up there, came
Yeah.
down. I thought I was going to buy it and then, it would swing back up. But again, it's all contingent, really. Some of these shock waves of volatility upon geopolitics, consumer trends. But the stablecoin actually threw me off. I didn't think it would drop that much from the stablecoin news.
Yeah, I know.
So those
I
are kind of the updates on my end with the portfolio. Gonna take a breathe. If I have to cool it a little bit because of taxes and I got to pay Uncle Sam, fine. So be it. I'll extend my goal there for like another couple of weeks.
how do you handle the tax side of things? Do you set aside money every month to, you know, to allocate towards taxes when it comes time to pay them, or do you just, you know, deal with it when it happens? I guess what I'm asking is do you plan ahead for your, the taxes that you have to pay, or do you just pay it on the fly whenever you get the bill, basically?
It's a great question. And my accountant had always says, either put money aside or actually pay in advance.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, I do like to run by the cash is trash type of deal.
Yeah.
Where I want to be able to invest as much capital as possible. It's better off in the market compounding and making more money for me than I think sitting sidelines. So I have my emergency savings. That right now is upwards of, I think, 50 to $60,000.
Wow.
Just
Okay, so
sitting
that'll
there.
more than cover your taxes.
Yeah, if I need it.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
I don't ever touch that savings. And that's not just in a regular bank account, right? But it's safe and sound.
Mm-hmm.
That's over there on the sidelines. I never even think about it. So I know that it's there in as a like cushion, like if I absolutely need it. But what I do is every time I get, paychecks come in, I divvy it up into where I need it to go. And so with taxes, I'm not afraid, this upcoming paycheck I'm about to get, plus a couple other paychecks that will come in, it will top, $11,000-$12,000. And so I'm just going to send that in. So to answer your question, no, I'm very confident in my ability every month to just keep delivering, through to my account what I need to. And then when I need to shift funds, I'll shift funds.
Yeah, so your cash flow is strong enough that you don't have to necessarily set aside money specifically earmarked for taxes then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And look, even
great.
if, Ryan, something happened, I know very well who I am, and I've been in the positions before where it's like, life hits. I know how to respond. I thrive when life hits me. And for me, that pincher moment of life is like, let's go then, So I don't recommend what I do for anybody else out there. I really don't recommend living like I do. But for me personally, when I'm in that pinch and life hits me, just socks me, I know I'm going to get back up and I am going to do what I have to do. I don't care if it's waiting tables, I don't care if it's walking dogs or whatever it is. I'm just going to make the money. So that's a mentality that I have. But what about you? Do you put money aside?
I do. I typically every month I'll put away about $1,000 into just a savings account, and then I pay taxes every quarter just based on whatever the estimates that my CPA gives to me. That way, it's like, it's already taken care of. I don't have to worry about it. I can pay it, a few $1,000 at a time, and it feels easy enough for me to. It doesn't feel like a huge load for me to set aside $1,000 every month just for taxes. I don't know. I just want it to be something I don't think about, don't stress about, don't worry about. And yeah, that's kind of how I do it. So, and I always find too, I guess, I don't know if this is good or bad, but I always find that I set aside more than I need for taxes, which is good because then there's maybe a couple months out of the year that I'm like, I don't need to set aside money for this month. I already have enough in there for now. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, generally speaking, I like to set aside a little bit every month just for those quarterly payments,
I had a feeling that would be
I know.
your strategy. It's always like Ari on the extreme, Ryan on a conservative, like straight line.
Well, but like I could do it. Fortunately, I could do it the same way that you do. I fortunately the cash flow coming in right now is more than sufficient to be able to do it the same way you do it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just wired in this way that I want to plan for that stuff. I don't know. Like I guess in my mind, if I set aside money for it, then even if that money hasn't been paid yet, it's like it's as good as paid in my mind. And if it's as good as paid, then it's something that I don't have to worry about. And I just don't want to have to worry about it. Not that, once again, not that I worry about it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. Look, it's sensible. That's why I
Yeah.
said I don't really think anybody listening to us right now should follow through with what I do. But I do it because, again, it's like I know it all really, in my mind, goes back to knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Like people who
Absolutely.
are big risk takers make taking risks look easy. And then all of a sudden you kind of get somebody who's, I don't know, just gaining experience in the risk field, if you will, and they go do something in their world which is crazy, and they're like, why the heck did I do that? That was so stupid, like, and they drop the ball, they fumble, and then they never go back to taking those risks again. So I think you just have to be prepped and primed by life to start to get to know who you are and how you can handle really anything, whether it's the investing strategies or tax,
Yeah.
and it just comes down to knowing yourself, as we always talk about here on the channel.
Absolutely, man. Couldn't have said it any better myself. There's definitely more than one way to skin the personal finance cat, which is cool. But dude, switching gears, you've got a pretty interesting question for us to get into from the audience.
You know what's great? We were going to talk about this question the other week, and we got so
Yeah.
sidetracked by the other conversation we were having. I mean, that one went deep. So I'm looking now at this question that came in, and it's about taxes.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's actually right in line with what we're already talking about. So a
Oh,
good segue
perfect.
here for our comment. This one comes in from Roy Vera 2361, who commented that he has a question. He says, I am only able to use my taxable brokerage account as my 401k, and my Roth IRA is fully funded. What's your opinion on using the taxable brokerage account for growth dividend investing?
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. So basically, the question is, how do you feel about, I don't know, using the taxable for this for dividend growth investing? Okay. So I think it's better to answer it from the perspective of like what are the pros and cons to the taxable account. Um, I think when it comes to which account you should be investing in, I think that it's very easy to default to just being like, oh, go retirement accounts as much as you can, and I'm actually a big proponent of that. I think when it comes to things like the Roth IRA, for example, even if you, because the big drawback to the Roth IRA is that you can't withdraw those funds, the profits or the dividends or whatever, without penalty until you're 59 and a half. You can withdraw the contributions, but none of the gains. And for those of us who maybe want to start using our passive income before that age, before 59 and a half, before 60 years old, that can definitely pose some problems. And that's one of the areas that the taxable account really shines. It gives you that flexibility to use that money whenever you want, however you want. Um, Now, interestingly, the pros and cons to the Roth and the pros and cons to the taxable are kind of flip-flopped. What's a pro for the taxable is a con for the Roth, and what's a pro in the Roth is a con in the taxable. And that's when it comes to the taxable account, that's the big downside. The big downside is that you still have to pay the taxes. So you are kind of paying for that flexibility. And I think that, how much you emphasize your taxable over your retirement accounts is, it just comes down to, I think, your investing goals, your investing timeline. If you really, really plan on using your passive income long before the retirement age or the acceptable, age to withdraw your funds, then I think it makes sense to really put some emphasis on the taxable. But that also doesn't mean you should neglect your retirement accounts. The way I think about it is, at some point you're going to be 60 years old. You're going to be 59 and a half, barring any, crazy life happenings. But anyway, at some point you're going to be that age. And when you get to that age, you're going to want as much tax-free income, as much tax-free profits as you can get your hands on. That's definitely, definitely something you'll want at that age. And so I think when it comes to just generally, when it comes to which account you should prioritize or which accounts you should have or be putting money into, it's both. I think they both have their own unique roles to play in your investment journey. They both have their pros and cons, and I think you should take advantage of all of it.
I don't think I can add anything to that. I'll just add, my old strategy, because I don't have a 401k plan for myself right now, and so
Yeah.
if I did, though, I'd be utilizing the old strategy that I put to good use, which is tap out, right? Like, I want to be able to tap out the 401k. I want to be able to tap out the Roth IRA. And then only thereafter, for me, because Ryan said something that was incredibly important, which was like, if you want to be able to use your dividend income before retirement, then no, it's not wise to put all your dividend income into a tax advantaged account. But if you don't think you're going to need that, or your ultimate vision, goal, whatever may have you, is not to use that income, then for sure you should have it all in a tax advantaged account where you're going to be able to make money off the fact that you're not going to be paying taxes on those dividends, depending on how you're playing it. But for me personally, if I was, working a job, I would have as much money as I possibly can, not just the match, more than the match, into that 401k. And if you really can do this, tap it out. I think it's $22,500 right now.
Oh, wow. So it's way higher than a Roth IRA, huh? The
Oh,
contribution
yeah.
limits? Okay.
Yeah. And so, on top of that, now I know multiple people who have tapped out their 401k and tapped out their Roth IRA.
That's wild.
So, those, they're gunslinging, retirement dividend income, But to that end, if you can't do that, I would definitely recommend at least doing the Roth IRA. Tap it out, tap something out.
Yeah.
Because you do want to make sure that you're using tax advantaged accounts. And unless the only caveat here is if you are planning to retire early in the next, 2, 3, 5 years, and you really need dividend income, you really need to start establishing that stream of income. But other than that, I really don't see a need to just be taxed on your dividend income that's coming in when you have no intentions of actually utilizing that anytime soon. I know people try to get smart and they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to drip it somewhere else. Uncle Sam doesn't
Yeah.
care where you're dripping it.
Yeah. It's funny. I actually hear that a lot. I'll hear people say, and also, well, it's more so saying, not asking, but I'll have a lot of people in the comments or even in emails who say, yeah, I'm not worried about the taxes because I reinvest all my dividends. And it's important to know that that's, even if you reinvest your dividends, which you absolutely should, but even if you reinvest your dividends, you're still going to be taxed on those dividends because that's still income that you've received. And you have, you reinvesting them is you're willingly choosing to allocate that earned income or that passive income that you've earned back to buying more stocks, but you could just as easily send it to your bank account and spend it on your bills. So it's really all the same. No matter if you're reinvesting your dividends or you're pulling them, you're still going to be taxed on that income. Unfortunately, I wish it didn't work like that. But yeah, that's one big misconception I see a lot of times about reinvesting dividends. Going back to the 401k though, because we've kind of talked about some of the benefits of pros and cons of the taxable to the Roth. What's the big pro to having a 401k?
Company match. Most
Company match.
companies out there do like a three. From what I've seen, most of them do 3% match. I know there's
Okay.
some companies out there that do up to 5 and 6%. I've heard the vast majority of
That's
companies.
crazy.
That's
Man,
insane.
if you get a 6% match, that's literally like a 6% guaranteed return on
Yeah,
your invested capital.
my sister had that at a company for like I was. It's insane.
That's
And so
crazy.
like even at 3%, 4%, like take every
Yeah.
penny you can get, never leave money on the table. That's the biggest pro to a company 401k. And if you don't have the match, then I would recommend going with the Roth IRA first, tapping that out, and then dipping into the 401k. I'm a big proponent of using tax advantaged accounts as much as you possibly can
Yeah.
because it just allows you to nickel and dime a little bit more than you would otherwise not be doing. So I'm a huge fan of them. Again, unless you are going to be living off of your dividend income and you need money before retirement.
Yeah, absolutely. The other I guess this can either help you or hurt you depending on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to buy a house, this could hurt you. But another big benefit to the 401k is I believe the contributions are basically deducted from your taxable income. Is that right?
Right.
So that can be good, like, because that can help reduce your tax bill. But at the same time, if you're going to buy a house or something like that, that's one of the big things they looked at is your income, and that's based on your previous tax returns. So if you're showing less income on your tax returns, there's a chance that you may not qualify for the house that you want or the size of house that you want. So that's something definitely to take into consideration. And with all of this said too, obviously this is not like tax advice, but these are it's kind of I feel like we don't really talk too much about this stuff, so it's kind of fun to get into a new topic here on the
It's
on
like
the
coming
podcast.
soon to a deep end near you.
Yeah,
2 new accountants on the block.
yeah,
Actually, the dividend diplomats, give them a little shout out. They are both accountants. And so it's interesting, it'd be super interesting to see, what they would say about all of this. And if they're watching, I think they do tune in. So if the dividend diplomats are out there watching this, go ahead and drop some comments for us and what you think the pros and cons are and what exactly everybody should be looking for. But while we're talking about housing and taxes, what's unique about the Roth IRA, I just thought about this as you were talking, Ryan, is that you can actually, if you're a first-time home buyer, pull that money back out from
it's
your
true.
Roth. And
Yeah,
that's a massive benefit because it's like a just in case.
yeah, that is nice. I forgot about that. I did not take advantage of that when buying this house, which is okay. I don't have too much in my Roth. Actually, I shouldn't say that. We're getting close to 20,000 in the Roth IRA, which I'm pretty happy with. I think I started that account like 2 years ago. Um, I've maxed. This will be my second year maxing it out. I didn't max it out the first year that I had it, but last year it was maxed. This year it'll get maxed. Every single year moving forward, I'm working on maxing this out. And when talking about all of this stuff, I didn't. When I was first kind of getting into this, I'd say my first couple years of investing, I was very much all in on the taxable because I thought, why would I put money into this portfolio that I can't touch for another 30 plus years, but then it took me a long time to come around to the idea that, and I said this earlier, but it took me a while to come around to the idea that, well, dude, at some point you are going to be 60 years old and you need to be thinking about, you need to put yourself in the shoes of that person for just a moment. And the more that I thought about that, the more I came around to the idea of, okay, well, maybe let's start a Roth IRA. And like I said, I didn't max it out the first year or anything like that because I was like, I'll just have it, but it still prioritize the taxable. But then as time has gone on, I've really shifted my mindset, and now have come around more to exactly what you said. Like, yes, take advantage of those tax benefits if you can, especially like, you know, balance it out for yourself too, because like you're still doing a lot over in the taxable. You've got your dividends coming in. You're paying taxes on those. So, you know, do yourself a little favor and give yourself a little advantage over here in the Roth IRA. It's not going to kill you.
I was going to say, you're still coming around to getting older, huh?
He's still coming around. Yeah.
Hasn't hit, but you
Trying
are
to
aging,
fight
my
it.
friend.
Dude,
You know, I
every week I look in the mirror. I don't notice it when my beard's like this, but every week if I let this get longer, I'll find another gray hair. They're really coming. I think I'm getting close to like double-digit gray hairs in the chin beard. It's getting pretty serious.
I have grays every now and again, a little more than I'd like. My ex used to actually like try to pluck them out.
Oh
She's
yeah.
like, "Oh my God, babe, you got grays." You know, I'm like, yeah, you know, I don't mind a good George Clooney look though. I got to be honest.
No.
You know, it's like George Clooney of dividends. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, it's what you mentioned mindset a moment ago, and I thought this was interesting because I actually spoke to two creators earlier today, and we spoke all about mindset in the long term, and I don't think you're the only one, Ryan, who like jumps into the world of investing and is like, why in the world would I think about a tax advantaged account? Like I won't ever be able to pull money out of it. Like I'm not going to need that then. Like I need this now. And you know, we got so deep in this conversation earlier today where I was really sharing, they're quite younger, you know, and so I was sharing with them just like from life experience, the absolute necessity to be forward thinking and how many times it crushes a wealth opportunity to be grabbing at the low-hanging instantaneous gratification fruit. You know, and whether that's the crazy high-yield income ETFs these days, you know, that are meant for short-term, you know, intraday trading, whether it's the crazy penny stock opportunities, meme stocks, Bitcoin, like you name it, like everybody, as I always classically say, is trying to get rich by Tuesday, and this mindset is killing people. And so what I was sharing with them is like, you know, I even went back to saying, so when I first started off working, I used to work for a small startup called Yelp. And there was, I always, you know, I laugh because I always, you know, kind of mention Yelp like that. Because when I was there, it was this little thing, you know, it was just beginning to be Yelp. Right. Anyways, I was pretty good with sales. And, you know, I quickly started training then new reps. And I was invited to Jeremy Stoppelman's office, which it's not really an office. There's no office. He kind of sat in the corner of one of the sales floors over in San Francisco.
Was he like the founder or something, or?
He's the CEO and founder. Yeah. I was actually going to ask you, do you know who Jeremy Stoppelman is? But now I'm just speaking like you were there with me. You know?
I felt like I was. I was there in spirit.
Yeah, there you go. So, you know, he would invite top producers, and we'd have these chats. And so one of these, you know, chats, we're sitting around the desk, and he had on the wall a picture of him and Steve Jobs. And he explained to us the story on how Steve Jobs offered to buy Yelp. He wanted to acquire Yelp. And Stoppelman said no. And then he, of course, got pushed back from Jobs. Jobs ultimately then, after their conversations, wrote Stoppelman a postcard that he also has along with that picture. And the postcard basically said, like I don't remember it verbatim, but like, I admire you, and you're taking the right approach. Never sell Yelp.
That's awesome.
And you know why I bring that up is because a part of the conversation I was having with these two creators earlier today was not just being forward thinking, but the ability to walk away from what will not ultimately help you achieve your long-term goals. And I feel like, whether it's, this something as simple as taxes, like paying attention to taxes. I don't know how many years you weren't paying attention to that, but that could have been years worth of a nice chunk of savings for you, just sheltering it from taxes.
Yeah, I think about that from time to time, and I don't mean to cut you off there, but I do think about that from time to time. Like, what if I just went back to just putting everything in the taxable? And I'm like, that'd be so dumb. I mean, it's in alignment with my goals. If I want to live off of or start pulling, I shouldn't say live off of, but start pulling some of my dividends at the age that I'm kind of hoping to, which is really like in my mid to late 40s, another 15 years or so from now. I think realistically I could do that. That, doing so would be in total alignment with that goal. But, I'm also looking at everything, and I realize I can do that and also still be maxing out my Roth. Like it doesn't need to be one or the other in my situation here. So I'm not in any huge rush. Like I'd like to live off dividends sooner than later, but I also don't want to rush it. And I think I can have this balance, you know what I'm saying, between the taxable and the Roth. And it's going to allow me to hit both my short and medium term goals. And it's also going to be great for my long term goals as well. Because, like I said, I will be 60. I will be that old, and I'll be much older than that someday. And throughout all of that time, every moment that comes after 59 and a half, that portfolio is still going to be generating tax free gains, tax free profits. And so that portfolio is only going to get larger, and the benefits from that will only continue to grow larger over time as the value of that portfolio grows as well. So yeah, it's tough to hold all of those different timelines in your head, but you really need to be mindful of what you're doing today and how that's going to impact you a few years from now, and how that's going to impact you even longer from now. And it's really tough to look into the future, and the farther into the future that you try and look, the more difficult that it gets, because it just seems so far away. And it's so hard to put yourself in the shoes of that person that you're going to be. Yeah, that's basically twice my lifetime, from now. And so it's hard to project that far into the future.
What's I don't know, for me, it's gotten easier and easier the more intentional I've gotten with myself and my life, looking into the future, and being real with myself, and like what life is going to ultimately bring my way. Like old age is for sure there. And then I start thinking, it's like, okay, I'm a big believer of this. Everything I do today will dictate where I'm going to be in a couple of months from now, in a year from now, in 5 years from now, and definitely in 50 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always there's not a day that goes by where I can just be a couch potato. Like it's just absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
Because the old that mindset of like, oh, I can chill out, like you can't, like I cannot, because what I am doing today is going to build the person I want to be. And I've seen that time and time again. I like just play out all the time. And then you look around and people are literally a direct result of what they're doing constantly. So like if you don't have money to invest, chances are it's because your habits. It's not because of your income.
Mm-hmm.
But we tend to gravitate towards like the justifications. Oh, I don't get paid enough, so I can't invest. I don't know how that works, so I can't do that, right? It's very simple. If you look at your phone and you go to see how much time you're spending on your phone, that will give you a clear-cut picture of like why you're at where you're at today.
That's a big one, man. That's a really big one and we've talked about this before, but that's a big one that I'm really trying to work on. Actually, today, it's so funny. This morning, I was on my way to the gym. Okay, so let me take a step back. I got out of bed at probably about 5 o'clock this morning. And that's been about, my normal time lately. It fluctuates throughout the year. Sometimes I'll get up as early as 4:30 or 5. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Other times during the year it could be a little bit later, maybe sleep in a little bit more. I don't know. The sleep schedule changes throughout the year, but right now I'm getting up pretty early. And usually I'm pretty on it. I'm pretty good about not reaching for my phone right away, or just leaving on the charger for a bit, because maybe I'll go downstairs and have some coffee, sweep, maybe put the dishes away, and read for a bit or something like that. Kind of just
I
warm
say
up.
it's a Rhinorella story.
Yeah, yeah, pretty
Sweeping.
much. Yeah, but and that feels good, and I can kind of get the ball rolling on the things that I want to do that day, and that kind of sets the stage for it. But today was not one of those days. I got out of bed early, and the first thing I did was grab my phone and bring it downstairs with me. And I plan on going to the gym probably. Usually, if I get up at 5, I can leave for the gym or for a run or whatever activity I'm doing that morning. I can leave within like an hour, like 30, 45 minutes if I'm really pushing it. But I like to give myself that time to wake up. So let's call it an hour. Man, I didn't leave for the gym this morning until like right after 8 o'clock. So I was up for 3 hours.
What the heck were you doing, man?
Well, I was getting some stuff done. I swept, I did dishes, I had some food, I read for a bit. So I did do my normal things, but in between all of that was just nothing but distraction.
Doom
And
scrolling?
it was part of that was doom scrolling. Part of it, I had a video go live today, so I was, checking that like every 3 minutes. I always do that. I have a bad habit of doing that. When the video first goes live, I'm always on it, just seeing
You got it.
where the
You
views are
got
at,
it.
who's comment. Yeah, I know. You know how it
For
goes.
anybody who doesn't know, by the way, YouTube gives you this stupid ranking, a 1 out of 10. It's like you got to go. Did I get a 1?
Yeah.
Well, what's my video rank?
But the point I'm trying to get to is I just felt so distracted all day because of this thing. And even when I was, you know, on my way to the gym and when I was working out, I don't know, I was just thinking about whatever I saw on my phone, whether it was a comment or where the views were at. Um, I was just, it really caused a lot of distraction today, and I felt it. That was the point that I was trying to get to. And so it really makes a big impact, and we don't even realize it either. You don't even think about it. It is a knee jerk reaction these days to the moment that you feel an ounce of boredom. Boom, it's right there. You've got the fix. You've got the cure right there within your pocket at all times. Probably already within your hand, in your hand actually.
I want to. Okay, first of all, so this is phenomenal because I got a book for you, Ryan. And you may have read it, but anybody out there, I always let people know what I'm currently reading, or of course, like good books. I know, Ryan, you do the same. Wabam! Talent is overrated. Have you
Okay.
read this one?
No, I haven't.
It is phenomenal. I really like it because, and I did. Usually, when I go to the bookstore, I find myself, pulling a few books, and then I flip open to certain pages, and I start reading, and I say, does this seem like something I want to read? Is it
Yeah.
good? Does it pull me in? Does it lock me in? And when I first saw this book, I was like, yeah, talent's overrated. I kind of believe that already. I don't know if I need to read something like that. But when I flipped it open, it was on a page about Mozart, and it started to talk about how Mozart actually wasn't talented. Can you believe that? And so right away it pulled me in. And so I said, well, what do they mean Mozart wasn't talented? And so I'm more than halfway through the book now, and I can just share with everybody that I now believe Mozart wasn't talented. I now believe Jerry Rice wasn't talented. I now believe all of these greats weren't talented because of what this book is sharing, and it comes at talent from a scientific approach. Nobody's born with a talent. It's developed. It just matters when you are developing. And more than that, how you are actually, quote unquote, practicing. So I want to talk about this for a hot second because I equated everything to how it talked about practicing to investing. And so hear me out. The book starts to talk about Mozart, like I said. And Mozart's the easiest example because everybody goes, oh, this is a gift from God, prodigy, musically so talented, unbelievable. The reality was, Ryan, do you know what Mozart's father did for a living?
Wasn't he like a computer programmer?
Violinist, man.
That was close.
Mozart, you know? He actually programmed Google. You
Yeah.
can't believe everything you hear. But he was a violinist, and he actually
Okay.
quit playing the violin when Mozart was born, and he actually became a teacher to teach kids how to play musical instruments, but more importantly, developed an approach to specifically teach his son how to master the violin.
Hmm.
And so at I think it was 3 years old, this is when Mozart starts to play. And by the way, I know there's all the rumors out there that, or whatever it is, that people are like, oh no, Mozart, he just saw, everything in his mind, and then it just came out in musical notes. None of Mozart's musical notes actually saw the light of day until after it passed through his father's hands as a kid. And so it just goes to show, it's like what we are seeing as talent isn't really so. And then Mozart starting to play at 3 years old. Okay, no wonder by 8 the kid's a freaking rock star, and by 17 and on, he's going to do great things. The same thing, by the way, with Jerry Rice. He wasn't a great football player in high school. He was beginning to be a great football player in college, never even won a Heisman. Continues to go on to the NFL to be the greatest, quote unquote, greatest NFL player there ever has been, retiring at the ripe old age of in his 40s, which is way past the retirement age of other NFL players. So I'm talking a lot about this because I think it's important to recognize that there are no excuses and talent isn't a thing. And so when it starts to get into practice, it starts to get into what does it mean then to practice? And successful people, like the 1%ers, the really successful people, do something called deliberate practice. The average folk does something called practice. And so this would be like, Ryan, me and you going to hit some golf balls and drink some beers at the golf course and hang out. And we're going to hit, me and you each, we're going to pull out our drivers and, hit 500 golf balls. And at the end of that hour, we're going to, cheers, call it a day, sit in the clubhouse, and then go home. Yeah, we practiced. That's not how Tiger Woods practices. Tiger Woods is another one they mentioned in the book. Tiger Woods' father, a great golfer, has Tiger Woods in the seat to watch his father play golf in the garage at age 7 months. So we're talking about another child who started learning how to literally watch and see and experience golf at 7 months old and on. Tiger Woods doesn't practice by doing the same freaking, driver, golf ball
Yeah.
hit 500 times. He's got a mentor. He's got trainers. It's very deliberate. And then they got cameras on him so he can watch his stroke and how exactly he hits the golf ball. Where did it hit the golf ball? At what angle? And so everything is being worked on. And then on top of that, throughout his practice, he'll go, over to the sand and throw a golf ball into the sand, step on it, and then try to hit that baby out of the sand. And he'll practice that move. So just in case during the season, if a golf ball ever so much as goes into the sand, the other golfers who have only practiced that hit maybe once or twice when their golf ball just so happened to go into the sand, Tiger Woods has already practiced that thousands of times. Deliberate. And then it
Yeah.
gets into what I got into, where my mind went. And I know I'm rambling on here, so I'll finish up.
No, it's good.
But deliberate investing. There's investing. This is exactly where my mind went. There's investing, and then there's deliberate investing. And to me, investing is like, all right, I'll just throw my money wherever. I no real plan, just see stocks, throw it in. Pick any old stocks, maybe load up my portfolio with 50, 60, 80, 100 stocks. All good.
Yeah. Put
Maybe
it into
collect a 25-cent
whatever
dividend.
put it into whatever everyone's talking about right now. See where it
Yeah.
goes.
And then there's deliberate investing. And to me, deliberate investing is more of like what me and you do. Develop and build a portfolio where you have core positions that you are building strategically, that you are very focused on, and building outright because you want to be an owner of this company.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's more intentfully curated versus just kind of thrown together. In my friend Raymond, actually a neighbor of mine that lives down the street, he kind of funny story. So he's like one of the OG fitness influencers, like fitness YouTubers. And I remember when I was first getting into lifting, a dozen, 15 years ago now at this point, not 15, probably 13 or 14. So about a dozen years ago, he was one of the first channels that I really started watching on YouTube to learn about this stuff. And so, long story short, I've been following this guy. I've been looking up to this guy for a long, long, long time. Pretty much my entire lifting journey, I've been watching him and learning from him. And, small world, he ends up being my neighbor here in Vegas. And now we're in a run club together every single weekend. And it's just kind of funny how that happens. But anyway, my friend Raymond was actually talking about this in his you can look him up on YouTube, guys, or Instagram. It's just The Online Coach. Check him out. He's a good dude. He has a lot of good info on this stuff. But he was talking about this exact thing recently. I was watching one of his videos, and he talked about the difference between working out and training. And it's exactly what you described with the deliberate practice. Working out, you don't really have a plan. You're going to go in there. Maybe you're going to hit some chest and tries, or maybe you're going to hit arms. You don't really know what you're going to do. Maybe you've got like a loose direction, and you just kind of throw, a few different exercises together. You just kind of feel it out, see what's open, see how things feel, and go in there. Maybe shoot the breeze a little bit and get out. Yeah, you worked out. You got the blood flowing. You moved some weight around, but it just kind of was casual, and that's different, totally different than training, where you're following a specific protocol, a specific program. You know exactly which exercises you're going to do. You know the set and rep ranges you're looking for. You know the effort that you want to reach in those sets. You want to be X reps away from failure. It's much more dialed in. It's much more deliberate, and you can get away with working out every once in a while. Not every single workout's going to be perfect, and something's better than nothing, but you can't make progress over a long period of time just working out. You have to be training. It has to be deliberate. There has to be a sense of direction that you're following. And I don't know, you were talking about all that stuff and made me think of all this, and to your point, it applies perfectly to investing. That was a great comparison there.
Look, as I was reading, I was like, we always talk about, by the way, how working out is so similar, how running is so similar to investing, and it really all is. And even to the point of, you're talking about going to the gym and working out and versus training, how many people are, when they put together their portfolio and they start throwing money into the market, how many people even have a real plan? How many people? I mean, be real out there, because Ryan and I are in the deep end. We don't accept anything else. Let us know in the comments if you actually have a real plan as an investor. How much money you're putting in every week, every month? When is it coming out? What's the when do you want to retire? And if you don't have it yet, that's okay. Let us know, though, in the comments where you stand. I'm actually very curious to know. When I first started investing in my early 20s, it was like the classic little kid, I just want to make a lot of money. It's like, and my dad was like, what are you doing? Like, what type of house do you want to live in when you're retired? And I was like, what do you mean? I want to be a millionaire. He said, what does that mean? What does being rich mean? And so this is where everything already started to get very deliberate for me. But it starts there. If you don't have, a workout or a training regimen, you'll go to the gym every day, but will you get better?
Well, here's the thing. At first, if you are, and I think this applies to investing too, to be honest with you. I want to know your thoughts on this. At first, you will make some progress because it is a brand new stimulus for you. It is completely new to your body, for your body. So anything that you do, even if you don't have a strict plan, anything will create growth. It will create progress. You will grow from that because it's a completely new stimulus, but that doesn't last very long. That's what they call the beginner gains. You can do anything and you'll make gains, but you reach a point where you can no longer get by on that. You have to be more deliberate. You have to have more of a plan because you've used up all of your beginner gains. Now it's not new anymore, so you have to have an actual strategy from that point moving forward. I think the same is true with investing. Like yes, I think we all have to start somewhere. You have to, even if you don't have everything completely dialed in, you don't have the exact end goal in mind when you first start, at least, there's some sort of stimulus that gets you to want to start. And then I think once you do get started, once you start going down the road, you do naturally get deeper in the weeds with it and you get more experience and more comfortable with it too. But all of that leads you to then start thinking about things more deliberately. Okay, what am I really doing with this? Why am I really doing this? Because at first, like you said, maybe it was a lot of people probably get into it thinking, man, I just want to make some money. Or it's like, man, I see my friend over here or my neighbor getting X percent gains or whatever on this hot stocks, and I want that too. Maybe that gets you in the door, that gets your foot in the door with this investing stuff. But at some point for everyone, I think there reaches this inflection point where you really have to think about why you're doing this and form a more serious and disciplined plan of action, because you, similarly to working out, your beginner gains will only get you so far. You can't rely on those forever.
Yeah, I think and I don't even want to use age. I think life experience is really important. If you are able to, and you don't even need life experience, you need to you surround yourself with people who are where you ultimately want to go. And if you don't know where you want to go, it's a really good time to figure out where the hell you want to go
Mm.
and what you want to be doing. Because life, one, it goes by. Ryan's going to be 60 one day. So, what I'm getting
Yeah.
at there, though, is we need to realize that time slips by faster than we think in the blink of an eye. And the real question before you start anything should be, why am I doing this? I'm going to go out on a date. Why? And
Yeah.
everything, I didn't always live like this. I started living like this at 23 years old when I got my life together after making one too many mistakes early on, thanks to, the kind of Wolf of Wall Street run that I had. And when I got my life really on track and together, everything got so intentional to the point it was like, before I do anything, why? Why am I doing this? Why am I saying this? Why am I reading this? And it really helped position me very well. And then everything I did thereafter. And so, I just like multiple examples, whether it was the conversation I even had today with these other creators, it was the exact same thing I was telling them. Why are you doing X, Y, and Z? And then they gave me their reasons. And I said, well, then you have to take a look at what you are currently saying on this phone call, because it doesn't align. And a lot of people then, whether it's investing or dating or working out or whatever you want to call it, they actually don't have a legitimate why. And I would say that's very naive and immature. And the moment that you actually mature is the moment you gain the wisdom of realizing that life goes by and every decision you make today has its implications for the future. And so, for me, in multiple areas of my life right now, dating is a big one for me right now, because I broke up with the ex, and I don't want to date. Why? And I did go on a date, and I realized on that date I don't really want to be dating right now, because I still want to put my heart back together. And that might take another month. That might take more months. That might take the whole year. But you know what? I know when I'm back up and running that the next woman's going to have more than all of me, right? When it comes down to the Series 7 and the studying, right? And putting off everything, why am I doing it? Because I don't want to fail it the first time to then waste more time studying what I already studied because I was being unintentional. Investing. I only have a limited amount of days, months, and years to invest the way that I'm investing. So right now is going to be the time that you see me making some of the moves that I'm making. Because I go back to my why, and my why, the ultimate why for me, is building something much bigger, much, much bigger than I freaking ever could have imagined, which is legacy, my future family.
Would it be fair to say that your why has changed from when you first got into this, and also it will probably continue to change as time goes on?
For me, my why hasn't actually ever changed.
Yeah,
My why has been so deeply rooted in me. I just never. We got a listener.
wild
My
man.
why has been basically since as far back as I can remember. To give my kids, my future kids, everything I never had,
Okay.
and that has never ever left the core of everything I'm doing. I want to be the best in everything I'm doing because when I have, a son or a daughter looking up at me, I want them to go look up at me and say, wow, I want to operate like that.
No,
And
that
that's the
makes
world to me.
yeah, that makes total sense, man. I as soon as I asked that question, I was thinking about it for myself, and yeah, same. I would say that my why with investing hasn't changed. That's
What
not
is
true.
your
What it,
why? Let's
that
start there.
so yeah, so my why for investing and my why for wanting to someday live off my dividend income is I just don't want it started. Here's okay. I'll say it. I'm not going to go off on a huge tangent, but I do want to say it is still this, but it's also evolved beyond this too. So I'm adding new things to the why over time. It started and is still because I just don't want to be told what to do. I don't want someone to control how I spend my time. I don't want to be dependent on other people for that, for money and give them that control over my life. It's something that I've never wanted for myself. You know what I mean? I've always just kind of wanted to do my own thing and make my own plan and be my own guy. And that was really the big why at first. And that's definitely still true today for sure. It's just a big part of who I am. But to your point, or kind of piggybacking off some of your why, like a lot of those things are for me as well. It's to create, generational wealth for the people that come after me. And I think that, that addition to the why came shortly after I started investing and really had like a solid plan for myself and a direction with this, because I realized, shoot, like if I play my cards right, you know, there still should be like a substantial amount of money in this thing when when I'm no longer here. And so that'll be, I know how life changing this is going to be for me someday. And I just, the cool thing about all of this is I can pass it down to the next generation. And hopefully too, part of my job as a soon to be parent is teaching my kid or kids, we'll see what happens there, but my kid or kids how to be a good steward of this, not to tarnish it, not to spend it all, basically to continue that legacy. And so I think that's also part of my responsibility, will be part of my responsibility as a parent, is to teach these same things, these same lessons. So yeah, I would say that's my big why for all of this. And like I said, it hasn't changed, it's evolved, and I keep adding things to it. I can't say the same thing with lifting though. For a lot of people, it starts out like, I want to look good for the girls, and it starts out very superficial, then it kind of gets deeper over time, and that was certainly the case for me. But yeah, and I thought, when I first asked that question to you, I thought that I thought something similar might happen when it comes to investing, but no, it really hasn't changed. It's gotten better and it has gotten deeper, but it hasn't changed.
Just say it's like I want this big account for the girls, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, look, if that's someone's why, maybe it is. You know, maybe it is someone's why out there, and that's fine. It's just you got to know what's going to drive you, because life will test you, and that why that you develop for yourself, that has to be so strong that no matter what life throws at you, you're going to carry that, and it's going to spark that motivation and drive and determination right back up. And so I know every morning I wake up and I'm like, oh man, I don't feel like doing this. I'm like, this gets so real, dude. I've cried in the middle of doing certain things, because sometimes, you know, maybe I'm cooking. I'll use this as a good example, right? I could be cooking, and I like to get music going, you know, get in the whole mood, you know. So I got music going, I'm cooking, and out of nowhere, it's like boom, this like thought and vision. I close my eyes and I can see it, Ryan. I can see the future family. And I will literally, because I'm so deep, I meditate a lot. So, you know, very like spiritual meditation, all that. I love all of that. But I'm getting into that or I'm sharing that because it's just like, I want everybody to realize how deep this goes for me. I'll close my eyes. I'll literally get down, like squat down, put my hands out like this, you know, as if I'm like about to pick up my son or daughter, you know, and like dance.
Mm-hmm.
And I just cry. Because I never had that as a kid. You know, I come from a pretty broken family. So, you know, I love my family today, and you know, all beautiful people, and everybody's on their path, but I didn't have those childhood experiences. And so when I think deeply about all that, it really hits my heart. You know, and the reason I don't want to jump into dating immediately is because I recognize that dealing with all the heart emotions and like all of it and healing is the most important thing that you can do, so you could be 100%, 110%. And that's the righteous thing to do. That's the right thing to do for the next person, versus just being unintentional and jumping around and sleeping around and whatever. And, you know, all these things matter. And when I started living like this, I mean, everything from the women I even date in the first place to the jobs that I have, the people I speak to, everything leveled up. And so when I get deep into these, man, like these visions or whatever you want to call them, just meditative states, and it brings me to tears, man. And so therefore, when I have these moments of like, I don't really feel like doing this today, I close my eyes and I'm like, yeah, but like, what are you going to tell your future kids? You just wanted to slack off today and watch TV? And I'm like, hell no, you know, like I want to build businesses. I want to, you know, meet new people. I want to speak at conferences in front of 6,000 people. You know, I want to do all these things.
Yeah.
Because one day it's like, I don't know, to be the, I got this picture right here. I think I showed you this before. It's my grandfather, my hero, right? But I mean, think about this. My grandfather no longer around, but he's got, when I spoke at his funeral, you know, I shared that he'll live on through me. I want my son or daughter to be like, he'll live on through me, you know? So my grandfather never stopped. And so there I am now. I'm like, he's my hero because he's a man that they don't produce men like this anymore. That's a why, you know?
Yeah, and when you get to the root of it, man, the truth is, like you said, like we've said in this conversation, you really like when it comes to any sort of long-term goals, it's you really can't reach them unless you have that why and you hold on to that why, because especially with investing, you know, when it comes to reaching financial freedom, when it comes to living off dividends or you know, just building wealth, doesn't even have to do with dividends necessarily, but when it comes to having these long-term investing goals or these long-term wealth building goals, it's going to be so, I mean, the journey's hard. Like, it's hard as it is, and you have to have a lot of patience. You have to endure a lot of ups and downs, and it's going to be near impossible to weather through all of that if you don't have some sort of why, if you don't have some sort of North Star or something that during the tough times reminds you why you're doing it in the first place and why it's all worth it when it's worth it when it's all said and done. And so you have to think about that why. And I'm curious too, with that said, all of you guys in the comments, all of you guys tuning in, let us know in the comments. I want to know, like, what is your why with investing? What was the thing that got you to start doing this? What was your reason for starting this? Let us know in the comments. I'm just really curious to know, like, for everyone, what was the spark that started that fire? I think we all have a different way of finding our way to this, and so I'm curious to know what that looks like for you guys.
I think it's I think it's a great time to wrap up, leaving that question honestly on the table for everybody. I don't think we can go much deeper than really speak. If we're real in the comments, I don't think we can go much deeper.
Yeah.
In an episode like this, and really dropping your why. And I'd be curious to know, because Ryan's why has evolved, if your initial why has evolved over time, and if it has, how so?
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
with that,
we'll get some really interesting comments, I bet. And guys, go deep on this. Let us spill your guts there in the comments. Yeah.
The more, look, the thing is in the comments, man, the more people, everybody out there doesn't hold back, the more this whole community thrives, because it actually creates conversation. More importantly, it's exactly what Ryan and I are doing, like no script, just talking, engaging, and what's coming out is the ability for us to see things in different perspectives, deeper levels, and walk away from this very conversation a completely different person than we entered it. And so even just writing your comment, when Ryan and I go through them, because we both do, it's always powerful for us to see who's out there, who's taking what in, who's walking away with what, and who's bringing, most importantly, me and Ryan new insights, because we're learning just as you guys are learning from us, we're learning from you. So I'll leave it with that, man. Ryan, you want to add anything?
No, man. This is fun episode, very insightful episode. I'm going to check out that book too. I just finished reading Dear Shareholder. It was okay. So, yeah, and I'm looking for my next read, so I'll definitely check that one out. So, but anyway,
Balance
guys,
is overrated.
Yeah, I'll add it to the list. But guys, if you're still here, all of you who are still here, thank you for hanging out with us for another really fun episode. Looking forward to reading all those comments. You guys keep up the good work, and we'll see you in the next one.